Okay, welcome guys. It's been a bit quiet in here lately, so I thought I'd do a deck tech just to post something to the group. This is a deck that I've been working on for some time, and before I go into the details, I just want to clarify, this is specifically designed for my local meta. I'm not sure how it goes in the wider community, but my local meta, I tend to play Standard Showdown on a Saturday, and it kind of ebbs and flows, but with a focus on control decks or weenie decks. So this deck here, I've been playing with Drakes for a while. I thought I'm going to give Spells a try instead. The reason for that is that often I didn't really like tapping out for Drakes on turn 4, because if they have a removal spell, then you tend to get hit pretty hard on the way back. The other issue is that in Standard at the moment, Blue-Red, or Izzet, doesn't have any viable instant speed removal that can do 4+ damage. I mean, its 4+ damage is all at sorcery speed, so the particular targets that you want to be hitting, say an opposing Drake, you can't get if they give the Drake haste. Likewise, if the Phoenix comes out of the graveyard, you need to have lightning strikes and so on in order to do the damage. So the other issue that I encountered was in control decks, you can't beat a resolved Planeswalker. It's incredibly difficult to beat. So my logic here is that I'm going to get rid of my Drakes, and I'm going to try a more lower to the ground cantrippy type deck and see how that goes. So that said, the other important thing with regards to deck building here is, like all my decks that I play on X-Mage, I only play decks that I actually own the cards for. So even though this is not a Drake deck, I don't actually own the Phoenix anyway, so that would not have been a consideration for this deck. So I'm going to start off by just looking at the mana base here. I've tested around. It's got there's a standard. You got the Sulphur Falls and the Steam Vents. You need 4 of each. That's just a given in an Izzet deck. Sometimes here, you can see I'm running 8 islands and 7 mountains. The reason for that is slightly higher than it can go to 21, particularly as you will see in my cantrips later. I could get away with 21, but I don't mind having the extra 2 lands, because it'll make sure I hit my land drops, and it also gives me things to discard later on in the game to things like Chemist's Insight, when I want to flash back a Chemist's Insight. Some people run the gates, the guild gates, or the whatever that blue-red lake is called, but I found in numerous times that I didn't like it when it came in tapped. So I've gotten rid of those and replaced them with basic islands and mountains. And so that's my land base, 23 lands. Again, like I said, you can go down to 21, but in my experience, it's much better having a land late in the game to discard to a Chemist's Insight, because you only need to get to, say, 5 or 6 lands. But again, for things like we'll see in the win cons like Banefire, it's going to be, you want to go higher. So I'm going to get into the cantrips now. We've got Opt, Anticipate. This one doesn't see as much play in Standard. It's look at top 3 cards and put 1 in your hand, the rest on the bottom. There is a competing spell that's Surveil 2 and then draw a card, but that's at sorcery speed. I specifically wanted this because it's at instant speed, so I want to be playing on my opponent's turn, particularly if I'm in a control matchup. I don't want to be tapping out when I have 2 mana. I want to hold up Negate or something like that. And this card has never disappointed me when I've got it. It also helps to fix draws as well. At the start of the game, it means you can, with Opt and Anticipate, you can comfortably play off 2 lands. It helps you find a 3rd land, but it also, late in the game, helps you find a threat or an answer by digging. Chemist's Insight, I think, is the best 4 mana draw spell we've had for quite some time in Standard. I even don't mind playing around with one in Modern as well. The fact that you can jumpstart, get rid of a garbage card later on in the game, you're drawing four cards off that. And there's also tricks we'll see later on. So that's it. I've got 12 card drawing spells that basically function as cantrips. The next I'm going to look at is my win cons. And I'm playing around with this. Is can be a little bit slow. Firemind's Research. You really need to hit one in your opening hand, or if you don't, you need an anticipate so that you can find one pretty quickly, because you can see there remove 5 counters. So you've got to play 5 spells obviously to get the 5 counters. What makes this better is that Chemist's Insight can be flashed back later. And the other thing is, sometimes I play around with Radical Idea. I haven't entirely discarded that card yet, because that can be draw 2 for 2 spells to trip this as well. But the key for Firemind's Research is that if you get 2 of them down, you generally win pretty well. And the other big point here is that it deals the 5 damage. So this resolves on turn 2. So if the opponent has, say, a Niv Mizzet, then you can shoot it down without actually allowing them to draw a card at all. And the other big thing of Firemind's Research, there's virtually no enchantment removal in Standard at the moment. So it is a bit slow, but I like it, and it also helps you draw cards if you need it as well, particularly when you get the 3rd one down, because you don't like to draw the 3rd Firemind's Research, but if you do, you can use those counters to draw extra cards. The next card is Banefire. Again, this is the point of this deck is to try and burn them out with incremental damage and chip shots. So Banefire is a good one. You only need to find 2 of them and you generally win. And again, to have it main deck against control is excellent. Again, like I said before, this is a deck geared toward my local meta. So, but Banefire is just a beast in Standard at the moment. I bought my Banefires for about 10 cents when they were not in Standard, and they're up to about $5 now. This card here, Murmuring Mystic, I'm toying around between having this and Niv Mizzet. The reason I like this at the moment is because all your little cantrips create chump blockers, which I've won a lot of games where I've gone to 3 or 4 life, and then Murmuring Mystic comes down and saves me by producing an army of chump blockers. The other huge thing here is that it's got 5 toughness, so it's very hard to remove in Standard unless you're facing an opponent that's playing black removal. Red tends to have the Fight with Fire that can take it down, and that's about it. Most red removal can't get Murmuring Mystic. And finally, I've got a 1-of Raoul. Raoul, I've tried with 2, but I think it's too much because he's an awesome card draw engine. He's great for removing threats, but he's terrible if they have multiple threats on the board. If they've got, say, even 2 threats on the board, his minus will remove 1 and he dies to the other one. But if you play him on an open board, then particularly against another Izzet player and it resolves, it's lights out. So that's the win cons. I've also got some removal that doubles here. So Lightning Strike, I've got 4 of. So the idea is to just chip, and the Mystics can buy you the time. The other card that I've got for removal here is Beacon Bolt. I absolutely love this card. It's only a 2 of. I find you can't play 3 because sometimes it's really bad when you don't have many cantrips in the grave and then you draw this. But by the time you've opt and anticipate, it usually does 5 or 6 damage. It can take down almost any target. The only thing that this deck really struggles against is Carnage Tyrant. I've played around with one of those lands that removes hexproof in the sideboard, but I think it's too much of a concession just for 1 card. So Beacon Bolt's a pretty cool answer to them all. And also the other thing with Beacon Bolt is you can discard it and then cast it back from the grave with Jumpstart later on. The other one here is Blink of an Eye. This is kind of a concession to the weaknesses of Izzet, but Blink of an Eye is really good because it enables you to bounce, say, a resolved Planeswalker which, because once the Planeswalker resolves, you can't really do anything with this deck. You can Banefire it, and that's about it. It's the only way you're going to take it down, or shoot it with Firemind's Research. Firemind's, if it has enough counters, it can get a Teferi when it comes down, because Teferi will tick up to 5, but once he ticks to 6, it's too late. So Blink of an Eye is really good for that. The other huge thing that I've used Blink of an Eye for is against white decks that play Ixalan's Binding. You can bounce the Binding to get whatever it is underneath back, because Ixalan's Binding, before I had Blink of an Eye, I had quite a few situations where they'd say binding my Mystic, so I can't play any more Mystics, and it was really difficult to play around. The final card I have here is Lava Coil. This is a really good removal in Standard, particularly against opposing Phoenixes, the one that keeps recurring, the 3/2 haste, and I've only got one. I could be convinced to play up to 3 of this removal spell, but again, like I said at the start, tapping out on turn 2 is not ideal. Against control this would probably come out, but it's just really good for exiling threats. So that's my removal. To back up my removal, I have counter spells. So again, I said it's chip shot, so I've got 3 Iron Eyes, and the reason I have 3 is because I don't own 4. If I had 4, it would be 4 Iron Eyes to do the 2 damage. But having said that, I would want to test it as well, because the other counter spell is Sinister Sabotage, and I quite like the Surveil one as well. That's a really good effect. I've heard people say that, hey, one's harder on the mana, but I've never been in a situation where double blue is really difficult to cast. So I've got 4 solid hard counters at 3. The other counter I've got here is Syncopate. And I have this has been an all-star again for 2 reasons. One, you can counter an opponent's Chemist's Insight, and then they can't flash it back with Jumpstart because it's exiled. You can also counter the Phoenix, which is huge as well. Even Golgari has some threats to take down, because Golgari likes to recur from the graveyard. Finally, the card I wanted to talk about here is Mission Briefing. This card is an absolute beast. I used to play it in the sideboard, but I found that I was bringing it in literally every single game because it was so good. It means that you can cut back on all your other spells. So when I have 1 Lava Coil, it's because Mission Briefing can function as my second one. And between Opt, Anticipate, Chemist's Insight, and the Surveil on this card, I can easily find whatever I need in order to answer something. It functions as a 5 mana counter spell, which is not ideal, but it's still relevant. And it can also buy back, say, a Lightning Strike if you just need to finish them off. If you're desperate, it can flashback Anticipate to find threats as well. It's just so good. It functions as a basically an up to a 5th copy of whatever card you want. Now, I have played around with 2 of these in the main deck, but I find that the first one is super powerful. The second one is a little too reactive. Like it's a quick fix basically, and if you need 2 quick fixes, you've probably got all sorts of problems anyway. Finally, this card that in my main deck is another WinCon Expansion Explosion. The explosion side is just utterly awesome. What makes it so good is the fact that it is instant speed. When I first sort of glanced at this card, I thought, oh, it's Sorcery Speed Explosion, but no, it's instant speed. So it's basically Sphinx's Revelation without the life gain, which is insane, and this has saved me so many times on both sides. Expansion is awesome because you can copy, say, a Chemist's Insight and draw 4 cards instead of 2. You can copy an opponent's Vraska's Contempt. You can copy an opponent's counter spell. So it just has so many relevant options. And in Explosion, when you're got 9 mana, you're looking for a Banefire or something to finish the job, and you can't find it, you cast Explosion, you do 5 damage and draw 5 cards. So that this card never ever comes out. It's just always has an important function. So that's my main deck. Now I wanted to get onto the sideboard, and the first sideboard card that I want to talk about is Fountain of Renewal, and this is largely a concession to my metagame. I have a ton of those Izzet decks that play the it's a 0/4 whenever you cast instant sorcery, do 1 damage, and a lot of sort of aggressive weenie decks. So this Fountain of Renewal buys me a lot of time. It gains me a life each turn, which is really awesome. And then it's got the sack outlet, so sacrifice it for 3 and draw a card later on. Sentinel Totem takes care of graveyards. This generally comes in against Golgari. And not unsurprisingly, I can bring it in against Izzet as well, because it gets their Phoenixes. Basically, I'm wanting to trade with the Phoenix, because when I play it, I get a Scry. It's only 1 mana, so I can play it turn 1, get a Scry. If I can snag a Phoenix, that's awesome. But if you look at my main deck, I don't particularly need my graveyard like some Izzet decks do. I have the 4 Chemist's Insight and the 2 Beacon Bolts. That's it. But I can survive without it. Mission Briefing has to come out though if I have a Sentinel Totem, generally. I have 4 Negates and a Disdainful Stroke that they come in against control, as does the Search for Skanta. And I have 2 copies of Niv Mizzet. Niv Mizzet I think is the best card, and one of the best cards in Standard. It's mistakenly considered to be a control card, but it's actually more like an anti-control card. And I have found numerous times that I can take out, I can win the game without even revealing a Mystic. You have to be, you have to think twice about playing a Mystic. You don't just dump it, because sometimes you don't want to reveal that you have it. And so when your opponent sees Firemind's Research and then all your burn, they often side out a lot of their creature removal, so you can bring in the Niv Mizzets, and it's just a powerhouse. If it resolves, it wins. The other thing is, in control matchups, you don't need to play it on turn 6, you can just hold out. Generally, if you can wait to turn 8, have 8 mana, play it with a counterspell backup, you hardly ever lose. The final card that I wanted to talk about here, 2, is Fiery Cannonade. That's sort of self-explanatory. It deals with the weenie decks. And I also tend to bring this in a lot against the Drake deck as well, because it picks up the Goblin Electromancer and the Phoenix. And the other big important thing of Fiery Cannonade is that it's instant speed. So when they flash back the Phoenixes from the graveyard, it's just awesome when they think they've got a big win con going on where they can bring back 3 Phoenixes, and then you just cast Fiery Cannonade and wipe them all off the board straight away. And finally, Star of Extinction. This didn't used to be here, but now it's a concession to more and more Carnage Tyrants, because this Izzet decks just fold big time to Carnage Tyrant, and there's nothing really that can deal with it. I did have River's Rebuke, but that only sort of buys you a turn, and I've tried around with that land that removes Hexproof, but again, it's too narrow. I did find there was a lot of Boros Angels decks with Shalai, so the Hexproof land is really good in that instance. So if you find there's more Shalais as well, that might be a consideration. But Star of Extinction is just awesome for clearing a board. Particularly if you look at my deck, it's not going to take down any of my own creatures except for the Mystics. And so it's a good one, but one of, maybe I might go to 2. So that's my deck. I'm going to take it for a few spins and see how it performs against various opponents. So stay tuned. Okay, my first matchup here is against Ivan Alfonso. He was playing a kind of an Abzan mid-range deck. I wasn't really sure what to expect here. You can see my opening hand, it's not fantastic. I'm usually looking for a cantrip in my opening hand, so I find one there with the Opt. It's also got a win condition, it's got my 3rd land, so I think I keep that on top. Keep in mind at this stage I've got no idea what I'm up against. When I chose these matchups, I just said to people, can you play a deck that I haven't already played. So he's playing Abzan here. The next time, here's Tristani Discordant, so that kind of gives it away that he's on more of a mid-rangey type deck if that's at the top of his curve. Yeah, as I was saying, I say to people, okay, I just played Abzan, please play something different, so I get a number of different decks here. Militia Bugler, pure card advantage, so I'm going to counter that because it's a good 2-for-1. You can see he's down to only 2 cards. I just check for the beacon bolt. Can I fire it off? Yes, I can. I take a point there to use op next turn because I want to be able to cast Roll, and I find my land. Unfortunately, back-to-back shocks got me down a bit, down to 13. But Roll was just an absolute house. Memory Mystic here, I'm not too sure about in these colours, but once he's fired off that Assassin's Trophy, I'm feeling pretty good about resolving this Mystic. At this stage here you can see 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I'm tempted to wait a turn so that I can find a land, which is what I'm going to do, so that I can play the Mystic and fire off the Chemist's Insight, so I at least get a bird for my troubles. And so now that there's a Militia Bugler, I'm looking for a counter spell here. I don't find it. But 2 lands is actually not too bad because it's the land I need, and it also means I can discard a land to play the draw spell back. At this stage here he's got 3 cards in hand, and I'm thinking I've got my counter spell up. I don't think I can lose from here. I've got a pretty healthy 11 life. Unless he's got a Carnage Tyrant, which would be a bit unusual, I think. Chupacabra is a good one, but I have to use my counter spell. Apologies, I didn't upgrade my images yet. I keep meaning to do that. Get rid of the Bugler so I can get some damage in. Again, I've still got the land and the draw spell, so unfortunately I think I'm just straight up dead this time, so I'll get this 2 cards anyway. I don't have any Essence Scatters. I find an op, so there's a bit of a bonus here. I'll get an extra bird. And Expansion Explosion is going to be huge. So I'll take the Syncopate because it gives me 2 options on the next turn. You can see he's struggling for mana. I'm kind of thinking Vraska here, Golgari Queen. I don't bother with the block because I can put him to 11. But Firemind's Research has kind of got me thinking greedy here. Because I can only actually Expansion Explosion for 4, so I'd have to do it the next turn. And this is a really good target for Syncopate. Get the Tristani Discordant that he revealed to me before. You can see quite a big spin there. Means he's tapped out. A second Mystic, and I think this one's wrapped up. So again, 2 options. I can Expansion for 4, which is what I'm going to try and do this turn, and then he's just dead on board. He's trying to race me now. He got me down to 5. I don't care about these things. They can all resolve. He finds another Walker. He's tapped out, so that's game. So I'll take game 1 of the Expansion Explosion because I'm going to blast him for 4, draw 4 cards. This card is just awesome. And I had the other option that I could have done there was just cast 3 Anticipates and then use the Firemind to do final damage. You can see here I've brought in Fiery Cannonade from the sideboard, obviously. Can't hit Bugler, but there are a few cards that I saw. All the cards that do the Explore, you can get them before particularly the Jade Light Ranger, you can get it before the Explore trigger resolves. Abzan, I'm not really sure what he's going to bring in here to try and combat what I did in the first game. Probably Duress. And I keep the Opt because I can just opt twice. I keep a Lightning Bolt because I can start to get aggressive here. Because he's quite stalled as well. You can see he's up to 3. This is his 3rd turn and he's done absolutely nothing. So again, I can just Chemist's Insight, and he... Unfortunately, the video just cut out. My apologies there. But he cast an Assassin's Trophy and removed my enchantment, which I don't really mind because it's a bit of Assassin's Trophy. When you play against it, it's not as bad as what I thought it was when it was spoiled. The ramp is actually pretty handy, particularly in a deck where I'm trying to ramp to play big spells. You can see I've got Banefire and Expansion Explosion there. I actually misplayed here. I should have fired off a Lightning Strike, and unfortunately I had to discard. So I'm going to do that right now. Put him to 17. Because I've almost got him at a 2-turn clock. So you can see I'm going to be able to Banefire for 7 here, put him to 10. He's doing absolutely nothing. He's got 4 lands out, hasn't played a spell yet. So I'm really wondering what he's got going on. That Merfolk Branchwalker had to be his top deck because he would have played it earlier. But then he plays a Bugler, so I don't know why he wouldn't have played that in the previous turn. I'm setting up Expansion Explosion here. I'm going to be able to Fiery Cannonade. Fiery Cannonade's going to clean up this board quite nicely. So here comes the Expansion Explosion. It's for quite a bit. For 5, it'll draw me 5 cards, and probably I've got the Banefire to do the finishing touches. I think he's still working out what this is. He's going to gain 2 life here, which is a pretty good play from him, but he doesn't know about the Banefire, obviously, that I've got in hand. And it's just a case of just playing it out, and I take the game 2 games to 0. On to the next match now, and it's Ivan again, and this time he is playing green-white tokens. This is a deck that, because I've sacrificed a lot of 1-drop removal spells, that this is a matchup's a lot harder than what it can be. He plays this Flower Flourish. It's a pretty good ramp spell. It just enables him to find a spell. Of course, keep in mind I didn't know what he was on, obviously, at the start of this match. I don't want the Beacon Bolt. That's really bad at this stage because you can see I've only got, it's only going to do 1 damage. Amaria is a beast that will just take over the board very quickly. You can see it gets a 1/1 every time it's tapped, so works very well with Convoke as well. And he's starting to get quite a board presence. And the problem that I have now is, again, I've only got 1 spell in the graveyard, so my Beacon Bolt is no good. 2 Ionize, so I basically have to just counter anything so that I can fuel up that Beacon Bolt. I'm going to have a issue this turn. What do I do? Do I play a Chemist's Insight to try and draw cards, or Beacon Bolt? I'm just going to get that thing off the board as soon as possible because I'm taking 4 this turn. I'm going to go down to 9. Again, this is the sort of deck that he's going too wide on me at this stage. I can't afford to really Chemist's Insight there, so I have to just remove a Thorn Lieutenant, which gives him another 1/1, and I don't have the tools to deal with this in the first round. I really need a Murmuring Mystic. As he plays History of Benalia out, I've got no answers, so we're going to go to game 2. So a pretty quick victory there for Ivan in the first one. Again, I bring in Fiery, what's it called, the Sweeper. I don't have it, you can see, but I do have Anticipates. I've just drawn it. Fiery Cannonade, that's what I was looking for. Anticipate's going to set up what I need, which is going to be another land here. And you can see Mission Briefing is basically another Fiery Cannonade. So this is just super nice. At this stage, I'm thinking, how greedy do I want to get? Because I can take these 2-point hits, because I know I've got the card draw later on to stabilize. I've also got Niv Mizzet, which is going to just mow down these 1/1s once he comes down. So now I'm thinking, how greedy do I want to do it now, or do I want to Chemist's Insight and move toward Niv Mizzet? He plays this after combat, so Song of Freyalise, the first 2 steps, they can tap for mana. It's the third one, they get, I think it's +1 counters. So I have to remove it before the 3rd epic, or whatever they call these things. I don't know what they're called. You can see he accidentally flashes one there. I think he thought you could tap that token and get green mana for it. A second Fiery Cannonade. So at this stage, I think this one's over. I've got the Anticipate, so I'm going to be able to find that next land for Niv Mizzet. And that one there is a big one. That's going to +1 all the creatures. So here I let that trigger resolve first before I fire this Cannonade off. I'm just going to check for a counterspell. There's no counterspell there, because I really don't want to let this Immortal Sun resolve, but I think I actually do side out my counterspells. They're pretty much useless against these weenie decks. clear the board. But now I've kind of... I had to use the Anticipate, I didn't find the land. And I've got a kind of a real clock because he's going to be drawing 2 cards a turn now. Don't find that land, so I'll just go digging for it. I play Op now because, by the way there, I actually bottomed that Banefire and I just drew another Banefire anyway, which was kind of annoying. I casted Opt main phase in case I find a land that I want to tap. And he's going to take my Firemind. Doesn't really bother me too much, particularly when my follow-up's a Memory Mystic, which was a pretty good draw. So you can see the 3/4 Lieutenant. I'm kind of thinking at this stage, does this deck play that pump spell where I think he gets +2/+2, which kind of makes me a bit hesitant to block. I've got 14 life, so I can kind of experiment here. The problem here with, he's going to kick this, but I've got the Cannonade and I've also got a mission briefing, so I can clean them both up. What I can't do with that is take down a Thorn Lieutenant, which is a bit annoying. Again, I'm still not hitting that land for Niv Mizzet, so my thinking here is just past the turn. I'm going to Cannonade away those Saprolines, which I have to do now because I don't want that Legion's landing to flip. I've got two ways to do it. So I'm going to go the mission briefing way because this will get me 2 triggers, which don't really matter, but it will enable me to find the 6th land. And there's the Cannonade, because you can see I'll get the 2 birds, but they're going to die anyway to the Cannonade. But Memory Mystic's Surveil enables me to set up the next turn, and that one I'm pretty happy with. I'm not happy, but I can beat Shalai quite easily. I can just chump block for days against Shalai. So now do I want to play out Niv Mizzet? I'm just going to hold off because I'm not in a kind of a rush at the moment. He has nothing going on. Immortal Sun does kind of present a clock. But he's only got 3 cards in hand and he's not casting, so I don't really know what he's got going on. Again, these birds are not really my win conditions, they just buy me time for the win conditions. So I can happily just chump block there. Lyra Dawnbringer is a good one. That's my daughter providing backup vocals. But Banefire needs one more and I find it. So now I can shoot down the Lyra, because I had to Banefire for 6 because Immortal Sun makes it bigger. And the problem with Banefiring, you can see now, is that that token is now out of range of the Fiery Cannonade. It does mean though that I can cast Cannonade next turn to do the 2 damage, then, no, sorry. So here comes Niv Mizzet. He's going to draw 2 cards. I'm kind of crossing my fingers here that there's no Conclave Tribunal because that doesn't get me a trigger. This is just an attack to flip the Adanto, but I'm kind of skeptical again of what he's got going on here because it's a suicide attack. So I actually just target the smaller one here in case he's got a 1/1 pump spell. Here's a second Lyra. Luckily I've got that Banefire. But I can actually just take Lyra down. If she had an extra point, I could have taken her down with my Lightning Strike, because I draw for the turn if Niv Mizzet does 1, Lightning Strike does 3, and then Lightning Strike's Niv Mizzet trigger does the 4th. And because I had anticipated that would have worked that way, but I didn't go that path. But you can see just drawing a ton of cards. I kind of want to kill it ASAP because you can see it's down now. Don't want him gaining 5 life because I am aware that there's a clock going on here. But I have killed 2 of his bombs, so I still have my Banefire and I've still got 2 expansion explosions, so at this stage I think I've got him covered. You see, History Benali is going to go off now, but I've got these 1-1 chumpers, so he's going to play this. This was a kind of a waste, I thought, because it enabled me to opt. I draw an opt. I do away with the one of the tokens, so now I just need to 1-1 chump with my 1-1. So pumping with Flower Flourish was a bit of a waste. Doesn't really achieve anything. I think I'm too wide here. And at this stage, I think I can do the job in a couple of turns, 2 turns, because I can get the draw each time. But Expansion Explosion with Niv Mizzet is going to create a ton of triggers. I'm just going to get that Immortal Sun off the battlefield first. I'm just going to bounce it, which means that he's going to have to take a turn to play it back again, and he's not going to get the extra draw spell next turn. So I'll chip in for 7, so I've got lethal on the board next turn, so this is starting to look pretty cruisy from here. Shoot down that vampire that potentially gives him lifelink. Lightning Strike just in case. You can see I've brought in Star of Extinction. It's my one-of kind of mass sweeper. No way is that getting played on this board. And you just look at my board. I think I've got lethal anyway without even having to cast Banefire or Expansion Explosion. Knight of Autumn, way too late. I was expecting him to gain 4 life here. Instead he took down the Firemind's Research. The reason for that is I think he's seen Banefire already. And you look at my... I've got enough to do 8 damage with Banefire if I have it. But regardless, I've still got lethal on board just from flyers anyway. So I just Banefire, that will bring about the concession. And now we're on to game 3 because he won game 1 pretty quickly. Again, I've got Fiery Cannonade in my opening hand. I didn't play Steam Vents that turn because I wasn't particularly interested in opting to start with. Negate has come in purely to protect my win con. I take out my 3 mana counter spells, I believe, and then bring in negates to stop Conclave Tribunals. And any other enchantment removals, and History of Benali here is a good target as well. I did have the option of not countering that because I have the Fiery Cannonade, but you can see he's got 2 Thorn Lieutenants and I can't kill them with the Cannonade, so what I have to do is actually do it the hard way, remove them first and then use the Cannonade because they leave behind a 1-1. And I like him loading up on these Saprolines because it's more fodder for my Cannonade. So you can see I'm at 11. I'm about to drop to 7, but it's not a big deal. I can deal with something like a Lyra as well, providing I can hit 1 more land. But this was a good play from him. Puts the counters on the Knight of Autumn, so it's out of Fiery Cannonade range. So now I'm thinking I can Cannonade. And so what I do is I Banefire for 1 and then Cannonade so I can wipe the board. So Banefire 1 to get him down into range and to get the Knight of Autumn down into range, and then Cannonade to finish it off. There's a Maria, which is not good. First I'll see if I can find a removal spell. I'll get a second chance with Anticipate. Still can't find one. I'm going to just Banefire that away because 7 is kind of a risky life total. If he plays Lyra here, I'm in a bit of strife. He's still at a healthy 20, so but I do have card draw. And now with Star of Extinction, I'm pretty happy about that. And that does change things though. So if Song of Freyalise goes off, he's got lethal on board next turn. I could remove one of a Lightning Strike, but then if he's got any sort of pump spell, I'm just straight up dead. So I take the safe route and play Star of Extinction. Clear the board, live to fight another day. He does nothing. So now my Banefire here, I'm tempted to fire it off, but I think better of it because in case there's a Lyra or something like that. Lava Coil I'm pretty happy with because it means that his history is going to fluff. And Mission Briefing is a huge pickup. It gives me so many options out of the grave now. You can see I do this main phase trying to find a win con. I'll take Expansion Explosion. And you can see how good this card is just right. I can negate this with Mission Briefing. It's going to set up my draws as well. I don't want either of those, I don't think. Get the negate to counter that. Expansion Explosion is going to set up a massive recovery here. You can see 2, 4, 5, 6. I'm going to do it for 6. It's basically giving me a whole new hand to play with. And look at that, 5 lands out of the 6. There is fodder there for Chemist's Insight, so that's pretty good. I don't have I don't want to use my Banefire to answer that, but I've got no choice because it's lethal. But now I can actually get it with Niv Mizzet plus Lightning Strike. I think I almost misplayed there. I was about to fire off 2 Lightning Strikes. I find a Beacon Bolt anyway, so I've got quite a few answers to deal with it. I'll take the Disdainful Stroke. At this stage I think I've got the match won. 2 Niv Mizzets, I don't want 2. I'm going to go the Beacon Bolt route. I probably should have just gone Lightning Strike. Particularly because the Niv Mizzet trigger, I can't actually target him while Shalai's on the board. Because Shalai gives him hexproof. I let that resolve because I got 2. Fire off the Lightning Strike because I'm getting aggressive now, and I think I've actually got lethal here. Yeah, so I fire off the Banefire and I take the match 2 games to 1. So thanks, Ivan. This time Nathan Blewitt is in the hot seat. He's actually facing me now with a deck that I have faced a number of times because, as I mentioned in the deck tech, this is largely built for my local meta, and I've got a couple of friends that play this deck. It's a red-black aggro deck that kind of burns as well. We just had a minor mishap on the server, didn't last for very long. One really strange thing with that is that never ever ever happens to me, except when I play Nathan. And I think Nathan's reported similar issues on his side as well. Here's Risk Factor, so this is just awesome for Syncopate. I can Syncopate for 1, he's not even going to get that Risk Factor back. So at this stage it's not Panic Stations. I do have plenty of life. I'm taking a turn off to resolve this Firemind. There's no way he can get that off the battlefield now in red-black. Rakdos has no way to deal with enchantments. And that kind of gives away what's going on here. Double Lightning Strikes me, and just like that I'm down to 8. So now I've got to think about what I'm doing. Hey, no more mucking around. Now I use the Lava Coil here because I can hold up Lightning Strike in case there's a haste threat that comes down, and sure enough there is. So I get that off the battlefield. He fires off a Wizard's Lightning. Again, apologies you can't see that 3rd card. I might actually just move this over so that we can see. It's going to... I'll try and keep the life totals in there. So Sword Point Diplomacy. Again, my friend plays this as well. Reveal 3 cards. For every card, I can choose to put these in the grave, but for every one I do, I take 3 hit. You can see I'm down to 5 life, so I can't really afford to do that. I'm keeping a mind out for that Gutter Snipe. So now he's got a lightning strike that he had. He puts me down to 3, so the lightning strike is lethal. I'm looking for counter spells. I find one of Sinister Sabotage. The problem is I'm just dead if he. I mean, I'm not dead. I need back-to-back spells. So I'll take 2 counter spells. This is super risky. So I'm struggling for lands. If I had another land here, it would be awesome, because that would mean I could counter, and also you can see I turned down an anticipate looking for a land. I could have countered there and gone for the. Pain for Firemind's Research, but see there I cannot actually get the Gutter Snipe because I have to let it resolve before I kill it with the Firemind. So now I'm going to do it. He's going to Lightning Strike in response to get the final 2 points. That's the only way I could have gone about doing that, because if it was the other way, if I'd countered the Gutter Snipe, he would have then been able to cast the Lightning Strike. So he's going to put me to 1, so I'm just dead to any counter spell off the top here. He's got 1 card in hand, now he's got 2. He goes for the Gutter Snipe, I have to let it resolve. And he's got Shock. You can see I'm tapped out, so I don't know why he did it in that sequence, but that's what he did. On to game 2 now. And here's my spicy sideboard tech, Fountain of Renewal. We'll see if he can beat that. I'm going to be gaining 1 life a turn. Some of the white decks play Ajani's Welcome, which is for creatures. I prefer this because it's guaranteed life each turn. And so my thinking here is I've just got to keep removing his threats, and I think that I can actually gain life faster than what he can damage me. So you can see there's been 3 turns. There's been 3 turns and I'm at 18 life, and now I've resolved my Mystic. He does play. Here's a Sword Point Diplomacy again, but all poor cards, you can have them all. He might play Cast Down, I'm not sure. So I'm not sure how he's going to stop this Mystic. He's tapped out here, so I'm not sure why he's swinging that Pyromancer in, just to force damage, I think. But through all that, I'm still at 15, and now I've got 2 negates. And he's staring down at a blowout here. If he... I'm at 15. I can still allow Lightning Strikes to resolve. So here I can strike down 1 and then kill the other one with a double block. And still have negate. So he goes for the Wizard's Lightning, because those 2 are wizards. Before they die, obviously. I negate the Wizard's Lightning. So now I don't even have to commit my Memory Mystic to a block, because it would have been dead to... You can see I thought about it, a triple block, but I don't want to expose it to a Lightning Strike. And I untap 13 life, a Mystic, and he's got nothing going on. I've now got a Chemist's Insight, and it's a race. He's got 2 cards in hand. I don't think he can win from here. He's going to Banefire me for 5, that's alright. Going to put me to 8, but I'll be straight back up to 9, then 10. And you look at my life total now, it's... Well, he actually took down the Mystic there, which was probably a pretty wise play, because it was running away with the game. Here's an Electrostatic Field. So he's going to... The Electrostatic Field, as long as he can find spells, is going to negate my life gain. But again, you can see turn 6, and I'm at 15 life, which is not where his deck wants to have me. Gutter Snipe is going to have to get cleaned up. Fiery Cannonade, I don't like doing that, a 1-for-1. I wanted better value, but we're pretty late into the game now, so... I flash back the Chemist's Insight, find a Syncopate. Syncopate's not very good on this battlefield. Good. You can see he's got 7 life, he's got nothing that's going to tap out for that except a Banefire, and Syncopate can't stop that anyway. So I'm trying to think how I can offload this Syncopate. Suddenly you look at my life total, I'm up to 18 again. And 2 Firemind's Research. There's absolutely no way in the world I'm losing this game from here. Lava Coil is a beast. It's going to take down that slim chance he had of winning. Viashino Pyromancer is not going to do anything fast enough. I'll just wipe it off the board just so I can get my 5th counter. I'm going to start getting pretty aggressive now. You can see I opt. expansion explosion in my mind here. I'm up to 5 for that. That's going to do 3 damage. That's fine. Again, look at, I'm at 16 life. There's no way he's getting back into this one. 1 card in hand. I think this is the turn I can expansion explosion. It looks like there's nothing going on. I'm going to fire it off for 5, put him to 11. Draw 5 cards, so I'm going to untap with 10 cards next turn. And 10 cards and 15 life. Fire Mine's going to put him down to 6. I can lightning strike him, and this one is over. You can see I got Anticipate, plenty of cantrips. 2 lightning strikes will get the job done. Put him down to 3. I'll lightning strike to finish. And so we're on to game 4 now, because he actually mulliganed to mulligan to 4 and basically conceded after that. So I got the win there, and my old nemesis Josh Grace. Josh is playing Izzet Drakes. He's been playing this for quite a while now. Josh, I often contact when I need to test and so on, because he's pretty reliable and knows what's what. And also, I've never beaten him when he's played with this deck, so I thought this would be a pretty good indicator. He tested a few others with me as well. He's on the traditional Drake build. I had 2 options there. I could have ionized or lava coiled that. I just wanted to push the damage and use a lava coil here while he's tapped out. Mirari Conjecture allows him to return an instant or sorcery for the first 2 steps. The 3rd step, he copies every instant and sorcery he plays, so it's a pretty spicy piece of tech he's got going on there, but we'll see in this match it works very well. Plays out another Drake. I do have the Drake covered. I have 2 options here. I can lightning bolt his face and then shoot the Drake down with the Fire Mind, or I can just wait till the next turn and beacon bolt, or I can draw cards. Three Fire Minds Research. At this stage, I think if these resolve, I'm probably going to win. I was sadly mistaken. We're going to see how powerful Josh's deck is right now. So now Mirari's Conjecture's gone off. Every instant he plays counts for double. It copies it. So Discovery Dispersal, he gets to surveil 4 deep and choose how he's going to put those back. Chart a Course, he's going to draw 4 cards and discard 2 cards. Finds another Charter Course, so he's going to draw 2 more, so he's drawn 8 cards. He's surveilled 4 and drawn 8 so far this turn. Back come 3 Phoenixes with a 6/4 Crackling Drake. So I actually misplay here. I should have shot down the Crackling Drake, but I shot down a Phoenix instead. So he shocks me, and I believe that's actually lethal. Because the shock gets copied, so it does 4 damage, and I'm dead. I'm down to 1, but I'm dead. There's no way out of this for me. I can take care of 2 of them, but I can't take care of 3. Because you can see I can Beacon Bolt, Flash back, Beacon Bolt. And that is it. If I had 3 more life, which I would have got from shooting down the Crackling Drake, I could have survived that turn. You can see how I brought in Sentinel Totem. It can hopefully capture some Drakes, and it gives me a Scry to help set up my draws at the start. This is a pretty poor hand to keep, but I think Josh's build, from what I've seen of these various builds, they don't carry a lot of counter spells, so I kind of think with Memory Mystic and Raul Zarek, sorry, I'll get it right the 3rd time. I kind of think that I got a good top end, And I'm a bit shocked here, he counters this Murmuring Mystic. Oh no, he doesn't. Okay, so I'm feeling pretty good at this stage. My Mystic's resolved. And here's the problem with Beacon Bolt. I can't take down that Murmuring Mystic because my Beacon Bolt has nothing in the grave. So now I've got to try and build up 5 spells. And I guess on his side as well, this shows you how good this Murmuring Mystic is. I've kind of demonstrated it playing myself in other matchups, but it's just a powerhouse in this one. And this one here, I actually bring in fiery cannonades from the sideboard so that I can get, because the drakes all have haste, so I can take down a whole heap of drakes at instant speed. So at this stage I'm thinking I've got the advantage in this matchup because I know I've got the 2 cannonades that can clean up the birds. It's just a case of actually getting spells into the grave. Oh, that's right, he counters my Ral Zarek, which was a pretty big blow. I needed that card. And from there I'm in kind of trouble. And from there he plays Niv Mizzet and I'm pretty much screwed. My only answer to Niv Mizzet, I've got them both in hand, but they're no good to me because I don't have the cards that go with them, i.e. the cards in the graveyard or the mana. I am going to be able to shoot down... I am going to be able to shoot down the Niv Mizzet, but the damage is getting done here. Apologies, I had an audio issue. I think it's resolved now. And from here, you see I've just got nothing. It's kind of annoying. I'm going to Banefire that Niv Mizzet next turn, but he's got a whole heap of cards. I think there was a bit of a pause here, but he's going to just flood the board with drakes. It's either Niv Mizzet or Murmuring Mystic I have to take down. Even now I don't know if I should take down the Mystic because I've got the answer to both, but I kind of think Niv Mizzet is going to just mow down all my birds. At least my birds, I can trade one for one of his birds. We're just resolving a huge stack here. You can see how many birds he's got. He's flashing back radical ideas and so on. So here comes the pain. I don't know what skipped there, but I did Banefire that Niv Mizzet. As you look at this, so here's the Arclight Phoenix. So I sack in response, so I'll at least get a Phoenix for my troubles. But that board is just nuts. You look at how many blockers I have. It's Fiery Temper or Bust for me right now. I've got an opt, so I'm going to get 2 chances to look at it. And I'm going to be able to draw from Firemind's Research. Roll, well, I can take that with a Firemind's Research eventually, but probably not. I've got absolutely nothing. Now opt. Don't want that, so I'll try again. Get a land, great. Don't want that. And so now I can't play Fiery because to draw the card I would have lost it. So we're back with Ivan now. Josh cleans me up pretty quickly. 2 games to 0. So my record drops a little bit to 2-1. By the way, the bottom player points that I'm adjusting is not for that particular person, it's for my opponent in general. I have 3 different opponents, Ivan Alfonso, Josh Grace and Nathan Blewitt. So this is game 5, I've got 2 to go here. And so this matchup here, I'm going to just syncopate because I've played this a few times. It's this red-white aggro, which was pretty popular at the Pro Tour. I kind of just want to keep the threats off the board. I take the Healer Hawk first because he might have an Ajani following up, and I don't want the Ajani to be able to gain life. Sorry, Ajani's Pride Mate, not Ajani. So Adante Vanguard's pretty hard for this deck to deal with if I can't get a Mystic. But I do have that Beacon Bolt in the grave, so if Ajani's Pride Mate does turn up, I can take care of it. Now this is a kind of an annoying card. I think he mistapped here. He could have left that Vanguard untapped, but he wants to be able to draw. I mean, he wants to counter on it, so he took a turn off. Understandable, but now I found my Mystic. I can't really afford to muck around. If he's got removal, he's going to kill it. So I just dropped the Mystic and crossed my fingers. I got 18 life. I can take a hit this turn. The hit's going to be pretty substantial here, as you can see. I can block one of them, but at this stage I'm thinking he's got red. Does he have Lightning Strike? But I think if he's got Lightning Strike, I'm probably dead either way. He can just send it to my face. And my own Lightning Strike is probably the best draw I can pick up here. So now I can Lightning Strike and Chemist's Insight. Or Chemist's Insight. I can Lightning Strike and Sinister Sabotage for one. So this is going to work out quite nicely here. I just remove a blocker first at this stage. Because the 4/4 Loxodon, it's not a huge threat because it doesn't have trample. So I go to 7. The good thing with the Vanguard, you can see I can actually block it, and it costs him 4 life, so it is chipping away at his life total. I would love to take that Ralzark right there, but at 7 life I can't afford to because I need a second blocker. So my line, I think this time, is to Lightning Strike the Loxodon and then put a 1 in front of it to finish it off. And again he's going to take 4 here. And again I don't commit the Mystic just in case he's got a pump. Because I believe if he had a Lightning Strike he would have fired it off by now. He doesn't. I'm still just flat out dead on board to a Lightning Strike. And at this stage I'm actually in the better position than he is, I believe, because I've got a counter spell to stop the Lightning Strike. And I can just chump for days with these two. And the problem is that he can't swing that the 1/1. Now this kind of might bring about a counter spell. It does. He can't keep swinging the 1/1 because it costs him 4 life to keep it alive each turn. So here I can just double block it. If he wants to keep these, it's going to cost him 8 life to keep both. And at this stage, because me and Ivan have been doing a fair bit of testing, he knows what I'm on, but I don't know what he's on. So he knows about my Banefires and so on. You see, he's just going to keep 1 alive. As I drop to 3. He's at 12, which is not exactly safe. So I got 2 options here. I can Chemist's Insight. I've also got the Firemind's Research, so I can actually take down a creature here. I'll just get another... Again, I'm kind of just forcing him to spend that 4 life. Okay. And this time he can't afford to. He doesn't want to go to 8, so he stays at 12. And again, I don't care about Sky Marcher Aspirant. It doesn't even have flying at this stage. You can see my Firemind's Research is sitting at 8, so I've almost got him dead. I'll find the Banefire that's going to finish the job. I could actually attack here if I wanted to, but I think I've got this match won. I'm going to put him to 7. I probably should have Beacon Bolted that Sky Marcher Aspirant, so then I could Firemind twice. A Dante Vanguard on this board is too late. I flash back the Chemist's Insight, go to 10. So now I've actually got lethal, so I'm going to take down this first game. You can see that this is going to drop into 10, then I can do 2 activations of the Fire Mines Research. And that gets the job done, so we're on to game 2 now. This one doesn't have a cantrip, it's got an early removal spell, but it's kind of a risky keep. But because I'm down to 6 already, I decide to... it has to be kept. Healer's Hawk. Now, I can still take down an Ajani if he has it. He doesn't have it, so I don't even know if he's playing Ajani at this stage. I kind of approached this a bit differently here, this matchup this time. So I Lightning Strike the Adanto because I think that I can race him. And so rather than do 3 to the face, I can actually do 4 by getting him to protect the Adanto. I found my Mystic. The other thing that I wanted with the Lightning Strike was to actually fill up my graveyard, so I can flash back Beacon Bolt as well. So you can see he took another 4 points there. And here comes Murmuring Mystic. So he's only at 2 life. I don't believe he has anything in red-white that can beat the Mystic for 2 life. You can see he's slowed right down. These Healer Hawks I'm going to be able to take care of pretty easily because I'm going to get my own flyers going. And Vanguard can't attack because it'd be costing him 4 life to protect it each time. Now this is a good one. He's going to be able to flip the Legion's Landing, but again I've got the Legion's Landing covered. I don't know why he swung off a Danto there. That got me highly suspicious. But I thought I'm going to test it out because he can Lightning Strike me, and sure, that'd be unfortunate. But Adanto was down. Oh, sorry, I actually back out of that block. I've got a counter spell here. I didn't play Fire Mines Research because I want to hold up the counter spell. I was very, 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 very tempted to play Niv Mizzet. But if he had something like an Ixalan's Binding, I'm at 4 life. It could have been a blowout. I need the blockers at this stage. This is a game 3. And this is bad news. Big time bad news for me. Aurelia. I do have the spell in my graveyard that can take her down, but I need to get to 5 spells, which is I'm still 2 spells away from. Now I'm 1 spell away from. So I'm looking for something. I don't want a mountain, but I get an island instead, which is kind of annoying. Now he's going to protect the Vanguard again. I drop to 3. If I was super desperate here, I could explosion for 2. I've also got a Chemist's Insight that I can play, which would give me the spell that I need. But this Benelish Marshal, this makes it very problematic. So here I'm thinking, do I draw the cards, or do I counter? I have to counter, I think, because otherwise I'd just be taking too much of a beating. So now he can actually put the Aurelia on 1. I think he makes a mistake here. Because he could actually mentor that vampire, but he chooses to hold it back. I don't know if he knows about the mentor. So I actually take 2. So I force him to spend a 4 life again. He's got 2 blockers. Now he's got 3. I need to get 3 blockers to get something off. I need something to happen big time. And Fiery Cannonade is like the best draw you can get. Particularly when I've got Chemist's Insight and the land. So everybody's getting in here. Only one of them has to connect. So I can fiery cannonade to remove 2 of them. I won't get the bird from it because the bird dies to the cannonade off the trigger. But it does mean I'm going to be giving up my Murmuring Mystic here, which is a bit unfortunate. But I've got a little trick up my sleeve. If he keeps a Danto Vanguard alive here, he's dead. Oh no, sorry, yeah, I had to double block, but you can see here, I've got the 4 for the Mastermind. I can't play the Steam Vent, so what I do is I play out the Lightning Strike and I copy the Lightning Strike with expansion. So it's going to do 6 damage, and it's going to give me the extra counters for Firemind, and I can then tap Firemind to do the 5. So I get 11 damage in, and I will take the match. And finally, the last game against Ivan again. This time he's playing Naya Dinosaurs. Disclaimer here, I was quite tired when I played, and we both made quite a few mistakes. Thrashing Brontodon, like the worst bloody card you can find here. Against me, I mean. So I play out my second Firemind, so the idea here is that he has to sacrifice to take down 1. But damn, I wish I had that Syncopate for that Ripjaw. I take the second Opt because I'm trying to fill up my graveyard as fast as possible here. He taps out here for the Regisaur, so I can counter that. But I'm still taking 7, I'm dropping to 8. So I got 2 options here, to take down the Ripjaw and give him 2 card draw spells, or I can take down double the Brontodon. So my thinking here is I can take down the Brontodon, and in the next turn I can take down the Ripjaw Raptor with the Firemind, because you can see I've got 10 power on the board. 10 points of damage, sorry. But he plays that out, and I'm just straight up dead to it. Because he's going to push me to 1 here, I can take down 2, but then the third one's going to get me, so it's a pretty quick game 1 victory to Ivan here. I'm actually, I was quite a wee way short. On to game 2. This is a pretty good test of this deck against big creature spells. You can see I've kept a super risky 1-lander with an Opt on top. I find the second land though, so it's alright because I'm going to be able to go into Anticipate. And that's really annoying not getting that land there. I have to hold up the Syncopate. I can take down the Ripjaw Raptor with it. I didn't get him in game 1, I get him in game 2. There's my land, so that eases a little bit of pressure. And he's playing out, he's got a second Brontodon, which is a pretty good reveal for me. I take the land that I need. So now I'm recovering after keeping a 1-lander. I take down the elves there, because I'm wary of Carnage Tyrant, and I think if he needs to top the land, and of course he finds Carnage Tyrant of Commune of Dinosaurs. So I'm sort of racing now. I've got one, I forget the name of it. I use Roll to take down the Brontodon. There's a 6 land, so here comes Carnage Tyrant. So now I'm racing Star of Extinction. I've got a 1 of in my deck. I need to find it as fast as possible. I'm going to get a number of chances to do that, and there I find it first up with Roll. The problem is I need to find the lands as well. Roll does buy me a turn because he has to take Roll down first. There's the first of my lands. Anticipate will help me find the second one. So I'm just going to Beacon Bolt here because I want to minimize my damage. At this stage I can get away with only dropping to 13 from the Carnage Tyrant. And he plays out a Brontodon, so it's just going to be bonus for me. And those 3 lands, I'll take any of them. And so Star of Extinction, and so I've managed to fight my way through the Carnage Tyrant. And he's down to 2 cards. I've got a Expansion Explosion here. I am wary though of other Carnage Tyrants and big dinosaurs in general, because I don't have a lot of removal to deal with them, so I kind of want to finish the game sooner rather than later. My Murmuring Mystic is not at the best here because a lot of his creatures have trample. But when he's playing out Llanowar Elves, I think he's in a bit of strife. And I'm kind of just contemplating here, like how greedy do I want to get with this expansion. So you can see I fired off a lightning strike to the face because I'm starting to think burn is the path to victory, particularly when he's only hit me for 1/1. Flashback the Chemist's Insight. At this stage I'm thinking I've got 5 with the Firemind. Can I find another 12? Mystic's going to help me with that. He's got 2 cards in hand. I'm not sure what he's doing there, swinging a 1/1 into a 1/5. I'd just take the 1 point of damage rather than risking it. Fire off the Chemist's Insight at the end of turn. I can opt, so Firemind's Research is online now. So 2 ops, I'm going to start getting some serious hits in. And because of the ops, I'm going to be able to make a bird to take down that elf if he swings in. He's got so much mana, I think it's just a useless 1/1 now. You can see he's at 11, so I think I can actually just finish him off with Firemind's Research. Disdainful Stroke is a good one, stops anything except Carnage Tyrant. This was a pretty aggressive play. He Lava Coils my Mystic, and then he Deafening Clarions away the rest of my board. And he's out of cards, he just finds a land, so he's just dead on board here. Well, not dead on board, but dead in hand. And I can just fire off this expansion for like 8 and do 8 damage, draw 8 cards, and go to game 3. So you're going to see a number of mistakes in this game. It was getting late. I have to be... He just flashed the Brontodon. So I keep the Syncopate, but he's going to play a land, so I can't beat him with Syncopate here. I'm wary of tapping out for the Firemind's Research because I want to hold up Syncopate, and I get a good target here with the Regisaur Alpha. But he's chipped me down to 17. I'll play the Firemind's Research this time. I have to shock myself because I need to get going here. I've only got 2 cards in the graveyard, so I need to find more fuel basically. Now he's just going to fire off and kill it. The reason I played the Firemind's Research at that point is because it costs him a mana to have it around each turn. Costs him 1 point of mana because he has to hold up 1 green open, otherwise I can just kill it like I did in the other game. So just make him wary of that. And so he's at 7 now. This card is a beast, Immortal Sun. In this deck it's going to be huge against me. I've got Blink of an Eye, but I have to combine it with a counter spell, which I sided out most of my counter spells because the things I want to hit with it are no good. And so what I'm doing now is I'm aggressively searching for my sweeper again. So he's down to 2 cards. I'm trying to keep the board clear. Regisaur Alpha here is a huge one. I'm looking for a counterspell. No counterspell again. So I just I think Lightning Strike down this guy. I have to get that Regisaur Alpha off the board because because it gives all his dinosaurs haste. He's going to play back out the Immortal Sun. I couldn't find the counter spell for it. And now you're going to see a calamity of errors. I have a number of options. You can see I've got Disdainful Stroke now, and I've got Mission Briefing. So the play here is to... I play out Roll, which is useless because he can't be activated because of Immortal Sun. The play here was to use Mission Briefing to bounce the Immortal Sun and then counter it with Disdainful Stroke. But as it stands, I have to flash back a spell to take down that Regisaur Alpha. So what I'm going to do here, he's going to draw 2 cards, and this just becomes a total mess because here's a second alpha. Now this gives other dinosaurs haste. So I believe that when this comes into play, the other dinosaur is going to haste it. So there's the Beacon Bolt. I'm going to put them both in the grave because I can just flash back the Beacon Bolt. Actually, I think I keep the Beacon Bolt. This was a missequence here from X-Mage more than the players. So I flash the Blink of an Eye. This is in the Declare Attackers step to flash Regisaur Alpha so it no longer has haste. He drops me to 4. So I draw the Beacon Bolt. So I've got answers because I can Beacon Bolt this Alpha. I can I can Lightning Strike the dinosaur, and then I can flash back the next Beacon Bolt and Disdainful Stroke the other one. So I've got all the bases covered here. I just did it in a very inefficient way. And that's a 2/2 elf, so that's not mucking around. Counter spell here is handy. I was thinking of flashing back to draw cards because I can actually buy a turn, but at this stage not yet. Commune of Dinosaurs is going to find him a threat. And he finds a Carnage Tyrant, of course. Now, at this stage, I need to find Star of Extinction or Bust. So I take the hit so that I can discard that Lightning Strike. Or actually, no, sorry, I discard the counter spell because you can't counter the Carnage Tyrant. I still can't find it. I need to take care of the elf, which I do. Immortal Sun's still drawing him 2 cards a turn. Here's another lethal elf. I don't know why he didn't play the Carnage Tyrant. He didn't do it for a number of turns. So I'm just going to draw a ton of cards here. 2 expansion... okay, and I found my Star of Extinction, so things are under control. I have to play... That was really bad, using a Beacon Bolt on a Llanowar elf, but I had no choice. Play out my Mystic, which was wrong. I should have played that then bolted. Now he's going to Commune of Dinosaur, find a Ripjaw Raptor. Now this is really annoying, this Ripjaw Raptor, because he's if I block it for 1/1, he's going to draw a card. He's going to do the old two Deafening Clarions to take down my Mystic trick. So now again Ripjaw Raptor is lethal. So I play out, I think I calculated this wrongly, perhaps. Yeah, I wanted to actually play the Mystic, then Explosion on the Ripjaw Raptor, but I think I was 1 mana short. So I go for because of the Immortal Sun, I'm going to draw 7 cards here. You look at my cards in hand is 11, 11 cards in my deck. I'm trying to build up. I've got a Banefire and a Expansion Explosion, so I can get them in 2 turns, I think. And I dilly-dallied around a bit here because I wanted to do 5 points damage from the Fire Mines Research. This was a big mistake. I had to discard a land. Here comes the Brontodon, so that's going to take down my Fire Mines Research. And here's the Carnage Tyrant. Again, I have the Carnage Tyrant covered, but I managed to muck it up. 8 cards in hand. I've pretty much looked at everything, so I needed to probably do something here. I removed the Carnage Tyrant, play out the Mystic. So I can actually create 2 flyers here thanks to the Anticipate and the Op, but I don't really have any good cards left to draw anyway. He draws a second Carnage Tyrant, so I'm just flat out dead now. I've got no way to cast to get back my other. So the nice play that I wish that I could have done here was to Banefire for 9 and then copy it with Expansion, but Expansion only copies cards that are 4 mana or less. So you can see I got 2 Banefires. If I'd fired off one earlier, I could have gotten away with it. But he just has too much life. See, I can actually Banefire for 11 and copy it. But with X on the stack, it has a value, so not possible. I could have actually... I misplayed here because I'm going to concede, but I actually have this 1-1. I'll just pause that video to explain why. Because I had a 1-5 blocker. I had a 1-5 blocker with 3 1-1s, so I had the Carnage Tyrant covered. And next turn, I would have Banefired for the win. So I think in my 6 games, I'm going to finish around 5-1, which wasn't too bad for the deck, I think. So I'll go to a conclusion now. Okay, just a bit of a conclusion now after seeing those 6 games. I finished 4-2. I think the last game against Naya Dinosaurs was probably a lot of huge mistakes on both our parts, so I don't feel too bad about that one. I think it was winnable for me, but also he had chances to win there as well, as I said in the commentary. Going over the deck, having seen the 6 games, if I just briefly go through the games, the first 2 against Abzan and green-white tokens, you could see that the power of finding the fiery cannonade, that's just a given in these these Izzet decks. It comes out the sideboard whether you have 2 or 3. I don't really like the third because they get too powerful. Against Nathan's black-red aggro, I think you can just see there how powerful Fountain of Renewal is to win that matchup. Again, as I mentioned in my introduction, my reason for having Fountain Renewal is because a guy in my meta, actually 2 guys in my meta, actually play that black-red deck, so I've played it many times, and Fountain of Renewal is very difficult for that deck to beat. The next game against Izzet Drakes, it's Josh. Me and Josh, we've had quite a few games practicing together. He's one of the minds I like to tap whenever I'm going to a big event to see what he's thinking and to get an idea of what I can play. He's been on that Izzet Drakes for a while, and he beats me every time. You can see that as well with him, the power of resolving that Murmuring Mystic in that second game, which was all the difference. The red-white aggro list and the Naya Dinosaurs list, again it's the sweepers that are key. This deck packs plenty of removal, and you could also see once this gets rolling, it can really become powerful. I'm seriously tempted, you can see in the Naya Dinosaurs matchup, to look at my sideboard for Star of Extinction. So if I just quickly go over the cards once more, having seen how they perform, I'm pretty happy with my draw cards, all 12, Opt, Anticipate and Chemist's Insight, very good. In terms of the kind of counter spells or win cons that I have there, the Banefires, 3 Banefires, I could probably cut that down to 2. Expansion Explosion was just an absolute all-star every time I cast it. I absolutely love that card, and my next step is I tend to play Blue Moon in Modern. I'm going to try probably one copy in a Blue Moon build. Lava Coil at 1 copy seemed to be pretty good. I wasn't finding myself desperate for a second one there too many times. Syncopate was fantastic counterspell. Possibly room in the sideboard for the other one. Firemind's Research, I think it's important to... I ran 3, I wouldn't like to run 4. But I think it's important to have one very early, whether it's in your opening hand or found off your first cantrip. Makes a huge difference in the matchup. And you could see a couple of times there, once you get 2 of them down, it's virtually unbeatable. Mission Briefing was awesome. I think 1 is the correct number. It just for the ability to buy back a crucial sideboard card is normally the play. Beacon Bolts I got caught out a few times with, where I wanted to remove something, but I just didn't have enough in the graveyard to be able to do it. But having said that, it's an awesome late game card to remove the big threats. The counter spells, I don't know, Sinister Sabotage and 3 Ionize, I'm still think the jury is out on those. At times, yeah, sure, but there's a lot of Carnage Tyrants running around, so counter spells aren't as powerful. But I think most of the games demonstrated how very good Murmuring Mystic is. It's a little bit slow and dawdly. I mean, this whole deck is slow and dawdly. It's not the aggressive Drake's build, but Murmuring Mystic, I think it saved me in more than one game and got me out of trouble, particularly against the aggressive decks. And its 5 power body is really difficult to beat. Again, onto the sideboards. Sentinel Totem, that could probably be replaced with Lava Coils. Golgari tends to use the Grave a bit, but and Golgari is quite a difficult matchup for this deck. Fountain of Renewal I'm very happy with, keep the 2 there. The 4 Negates crucial for the counter wars against control decks. Star of Extinction I'd probably go to 2. Niv Mizzet's a given against any control. And Search for Skanta is quite flexible because it can help me find my key sideboard cards, particularly Star of Extinction. That's why I brought it in the final game. And also a card draw advantage against other control decks. So there you have it, guys. That's my sideboard. That's my Izzet Spells deck tech and games. And my conclusion, I'd love to hear what you think of it and what changes you would make. And you might see this at the next standard X-Mage League standard. Thanks for watching.